As Dean of Students, my job is to track attendance, discipline with our high school students, and also, obviously, because of the attendance piece in terms of a crisis management situation, fire drills, lockdowns, etc. It's my job to be able to account that students are where they're supposed to be and communicate effectively with all needed parties. So some of the problem areas I found when it came to crisis management, how do we effectively communicate and implement crisis procedures? One of the things that I always found is that if you're like us, we go over our crisis management procedures with our teachers, usually at the beginning of the year in service, maybe one or two times towards during the year, and possibly in post planning at the end of the school year. One of the things that never failed, no matter how many times we would go over our crisis plans and procedures, no matter how well we had our crisis plans and procedures on a notebook or card right by the door, or tried to communicate that to teachers and staff and students, it never failed. Whenever we had some sort of drill, or luckily in my 9 years we haven't had too many real-time crisis management issues come up or events come up. But it never failed, as people would always come to me and say, Jeff, what are we supposed to do in a fire drill? Now, where are my kids supposed to be? Which kids am I supposed to be responsible for? Is it my homeroom, or is it the class that I was just in? So you can imagine that would present issues there. Also, tracking students in a crisis situation. How do we make sure that we have all the kids that we're supposed to have? I tell this story on myself that a couple of years ago we had a fire drill, and our principal said, Jeff, we're going to have a fire drill today at 10:42. And I said, okay. So I made sure that fire drill came, that I had all my attendance reports run. I had to make sure that all my attendance was up to date. Made sure that I had my logbooks, everything. I was ready to go. So at 10:42, fire drill, fire alarm goes off. We commence with our fire drill. We all go out to the football field. I'm running around to all the teachers saying, hey, do you have everybody? Do you have everybody? All that sort of thing. And I've got my radio, and all the while, he's radioing me along with our facilities folks. And it's all happening very fast because we're trying to make sure that we've accounted for everybody, that we've done all the correct procedures that we need to do. But it never failed, when we got back after the fire drill, as never failed in most fire drills, I would have this great heartburn. And finally, I looked at our principal, and I said, I need you to understand that I have a whole lot of heartburn when it comes to these drills. And he said, okay, talk to me about it. And I said, look, I'm being completely transparent with you, and you might choose to terminate me after this, but I just got to be transparent with you. I'm about 90% sure that we had every kid that we were supposed to have during that drill. And I said, and the only reason why I'm that sure that we had those many kids is because I knew that the drill was coming. You told me that a fire drill was coming at 10:42, so I made sure to have all my attendance, all my reports, all my logbooks up to date. I said, if this were a real-time event, God forbid I'm not sitting at my desk, and which rarely am I at my desk for any extended period of time, because I'm going around the school dealing with discipline situations, possibly checking up on attendance, those sorts of things. So if a real-time event happened and I didn't have my reports run, and I wasn't in a place where I could get the logbook, it would be very difficult. It would be not very difficult. It would be impossible to real-time track that we had everybody that we were supposed to have. So that was obviously something that we felt like was a problem area. Something we've got to figure out a better way to do this. Another thing was communicating with parents and staff real time during a crisis situation. One of the big things is we know that at some point in a crisis, we're going to have to communicate with our stakeholders, parents. Where obviously we want to be able to communicate with our staff in real time. So how do we do that? If we're in a crisis situation, not everybody's in the same area. And not all of our teachers have radios. How are we going to communicate back and forth? How can we find a place where we communicate real time? With parents, how do we communicate information that we need to communicate to them so that it takes or relieves angst for them about their kid in a crisis situation? One other short story that I'll tell you is earlier this year, we had a real time. We had to evacuate our elementary school, our lower school, and I have two students. My two kids are students in the lower school. And so we evacuated because we, at the time, thought that we might have a possible gas leak in the school. So I get the mass message the school sends out through the phone, and it said, hey, this is headmaster at Kings Ridge. We just want to let you know that we are evacuating the lower school at this time due to a possible gas leak. Students are safe, but we'll contact you with in the future with more information as it comes about. Well, naturally, as the parent, the first thing that came to my mind was, yes, thank you for communicating to me. But I really want to know specifically about my kid. Did my kid make it out? Where is my child right now? And then, of course, I immediately recovered and put my administrator hat back on and said, no, there's completely competent people in our lower and elementary school. And they know what they're doing. But that brought up in my mind, how do we communicate with parents and give them the information that we want them to have in a real-time situation, specifically about their child, so that it relieves stress of a situation and also makes sure that our first responders, our faculty, our staff can do their job in the manner that it needs to be done. And so as I went around looking for something that would help, I really could never find a system that fit all the needs that we needed it to. We might find something that would do a good job of communicating crisis procedures, but it had no tracking capabilities. We might find a good communication tool, but it had no way to communicate our crisis procedures. It had no way of tracking a students or tying in with our attendance. So that was a problem. Real quick, before I move on to some other things, I just want to show you this. I went and did a little research. I think this is also something that would be a problem area, obviously, for all schools. I did a little research on school violence over the years, and I just want to draw your attention to this one area. From 2013 to 2015, the spike in school violence. What that said to me is we have got to have, it's not a matter of if or when, or if, but when, that we're going to have to deal with this. This is a problem that every school has to have a way to account for your kids. How do you deal with it? How do you communicate with your families so that everyone's effective? Yes, we have prevention methods. We want to prevent violence, or we want to prevent a crisis happening in our school. But how do we also then respond to this crisis? How do we effectively do that so we can get kids out of harm's way?